Welcome, everybody. We are doing a special literary event tonight with poet Donny Winter. He's an astounding human being. You're going to love him. We're going to have a really, really good time. This is day 8 of the summer reading regatta. And for those of you who have not been to any of our race legs yet, you're going to learn all about the insanity going on as the day continues, or as the evening continues, I should say. But tonight we are focusing on our really fun friend, Donny Winter. He's an awesome poet. We're going to talk about him and his work. And personally, I'm just going to have fun embarrassing him like crazy because I think he's wonderful. And so, yeah, this is the best thing about this is I get to be a fan and I get to gush, and it's just fun for me. So let's get a little bit of business out of the way first before we do that. We're going to talk about this fun thing we're doing called Sailor Shore School. These are some workshops we're going to be doing. Christopher, would you like to explain all this wackiness to our friends tonight?
I would love to. We actually just had our very first one last night with Caroline Topperman. Was images as prompts, and it was absolutely amazing. I didn't know what it was going to be about too much, but I actually had a great time. Everyone else did too. Coming up, though, on June 10th, we've got Kate McNeil doing All Hands on Deck Street and Launch Teams, which, if you are an author, street and launch teams are amazing to have, and they go a long way to getting your work out there. June 15th, we have Deborah Reed, D.A. Reed, or as we call her here, Da Reed, with opening lines. You had me at the hook. If you ever wanted a really solid opening line for your book, which we all do to bring people in, you are going to want to catch her special. June 27th, we have Andrew Smith, Weapons in Fiction, Shots Across the Bow. His is the only PG-13 one we have this time because he is talking about weapons. So if you have kids around you, just be aware you're going to want to make sure that you do a little editing with them. Finally, on June 28th, we have Land Ho World Building with Brent Seth and myself. And we'll be talking about how we have built worlds by mystique and by mistake.
I love that tagline. That's so much fun. So for anybody who's interested in our Sailor Shore School, see, I wrote it and I can't even say it. Sailor Shore School workshops. As Christopher mentioned, we had our first one last night. It was a blast. We had just a great fun. If you missed it, you can get the replay download, and this year we've got new technology, transcripts. So you can get the transcript and the video download for $10, and all that money is going back to Caroline Topperman as our thank you to her for teaching. We had an awesome time. We laughed a lot. We had a really good time. And some great stories came out of last night's prompts. So you should check it out. For the ones coming up, they are $5 live. And when you attend live, you will get the download and the transcript. And $10 in replay if you can't make the live event. Super fun. Tonight, we're going to be talking with Donny Winter. He wrote this awesome collection of poetry called Carbon Footprint. This is so much fun. I love this book. I love this cover. We're going to talk all about this. We're just going to have a great conversation with Donny. And he brought some great stuff to give away tonight. It's just going to be super, super fun. Welcome, Donny. I'm so glad you're here tonight. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Diane. It's good to be here. I'm super excited.
Yeah, this is really fun. Because of COVID, you didn't get to do a full-on book launch like we normally get to do with like 150 people in the room and readings and all that stuff. So give us a little bit of the background of your book. And especially, I would like you to share with us where you got the title, because it's a really intriguing title.
Of course. So the concept for this book started a very long time ago when I was attending my undergrad at Central Michigan University. And some of the poems in it come from that original time, but I kind of just sat on it for about a decade. And I really wanted to write a collection about what it was like for me as a gay man growing up in rural Michigan, and how, I experienced a lot of trauma, a lot of difficulty, but confronted it and overcame it with a variety of different modes of support. And I feel like it's often under discussed, the actual experience that a lot of LGBTQ people go through in rural settings. So I felt that it would at least create some awareness with regard to that set of experiences. But ultimately, because I am also a huge tree hugger, and I love nature, I wanted to kind of interweave a sort of narrative about how the earth is a body and it reflects the trauma that it experiences, much as our bodies do as well. And that's kind of where I came up with the title Carbon Footprint. So, like, obviously, when it comes to environmentalism, the whole term carbon footprint refers to the residual stuff, I guess we could say, that we leave behind. Okay.
Sure.
But
sure.
I was thinking of carbon footprint as like the impressions that we leave around us in the world. Kind of like the fact that we, in a way, through our memory, inhabit the spaces that we are in, even though we're not in those spaces anymore. So I
like that notion that not only do, I mean, we all know that we have an effect on nature simply through deforestation or through some of the other really ugly things, polluting the oceans, things like that, that really get a lot of media play. But one of the things we're not always aware of is every time you put your foot down, you're making an impression on Mother Nature. So I really like the way that this speaks to not just your physical presence on the planet, but also your emotional connection to the planet. So I really liked that.
Thank you. I like the way you just described that. Like, I think that did a better job than how I described it.
Well, I'm only about halfway through the book. As soon as I finish, I will post a review and you can steal it and use it for whatever you want.
That means a lot. Thank you.
I'm one of those people that really firmly believes in writing reviews. So yeah, feel free. When I finish, I will write the review and then you can use it for whatever you like.
Thank you.
So let's talk. I want to show everybody the cover again because I really love this cover. It's so striking. And it's got this really great juxtaposition of shadow and color. And I really like how that plays on a person's sensitivity when they pick up a book and say, oh, this is a poetry collection. And so the precursor emotion of oh, this is poetry, with the combination of this cover and everything it brings, I really liked the entire package. So can you talk to us a little bit about this cover and how it came into being?
Of course. Well, first and foremost, it was painted by my dear friend, Tiffany Schmieder-Cups, who is a very talented artist. She used watercolor paints and some digital components for it, but it was truthfully pretty hard to decide on what I wanted for a cover, because this is my first book. Like, I never have gone through the process of thinking of like, okay, well, how do I want the world to see the outside of it? But I thought back on how a lot of these poems in this book were written while I was actually going on walks in the woods. My family owns a portion of property in northern Michigan, and one of my escapes would be just going on walks and writing a little bit. I would take a notebook with me. So I kind of became a little bit obsessed with this notion of a gay person who is, you know, freshly out, just losing himself in the forest of this like rural area that is, well, let's be honest, probably not accepting, right? Mm-hmm. And like, I thought that it was just a very interesting juxtaposition. So I wanted that to kind of be represented on the cover.
Awesome. Yeah. I think your artist did an incredible job. I mean, I really love this. And I'm just really impressed with the whole package. Really great collection. And I really, again, you know, I'm a big gusher, and I try not to apologize for it, but I'm finding myself apologizing for it anyway. I did this with Christopher. Christopher was my first big author crush. So there you go. But I think it's really important that we scream to the rooftops about people that we find that write really well, so that more people can find them. So
by all means, keep gushing. I'm enjoying it. So.
Oh, good. I'm glad. So I love the pieces that you read in February. I was just really touched by your work. And I have to admit that I am taking my time through your book, because it feels like one of those collections that you want to inhale deeply. It kind of feels like walking through almost like a garden of lilacs, where you just want to constantly inhale and never exhale, because it's so pleasant. So congratulations on a first endeavor. I just think it's a great book.
Thank you. I'm glad that you actually mentioned that last part, because at the beginning of the book, I did put a disclaimer on it, like, you know, hoping that people would read it a little bit more slowly, because I know I'm one of those people, I like to binge read things, but this book is very much a healing process. Like, I kind of think of this book as the sparks that take place when we start picking ourselves up after we go through something difficult, or when we go through a trauma, right? It can be messy, it can be, you know, a little bit intimidating, you know, it might be very, I don't know, painful, let's just say, right? So that's why it's also organized into 3 sections, because I wanted each section to kind of be a different segment of that healing process.
I love that it's a reflective piece. You know, it's not like a typical novel where you just want to like get to it and see what comes next and see what comes next. This is more of a inhale deeply, read it slowly, read a couple of pieces a night, and then reflect on it, and read a couple of pieces in 2 days. And, you know, it's one of those that you kind of ruminate on a little bit as you're reading it. Yeah. So I appreciate that writing style, because so much of what we do in today's society is like high octane, super fast, no, you know, reflex time. So I like when an author comes along with a piece like yours. Amy Kelso wrote a piece exactly the same way. And it's one of those pieces that you just want to slow down with and take your time and enjoy it. So I appreciate that you did that.
Thank you.
I would love it if you would read a few pieces for us. How many have you selected for tonight?
Okay, so I write shorter poems typically. So I have like maybe like 7 or 8 poems. So I can read maybe a few, and then we can take a break, and then I can read the rest if you want. It's entirely
absolutely, yeah. So why don't you read like 4 of them, and then we'll stop and chat about them, and then you can read the other 4. How's that work?
Sounds perfect to me.
All right. Donny, take the helm whenever you're ready.
All right. So this first poem I'm going to read is titled Letter from a Self-Deprecator. And one of like, well, this book largely kind of like outlines a process that I went through, like, you know, acknowledging mental health, getting help for like various mental health challenges. And this poem, my goal with this poem was to kind of like encapsulate the inner voice that we have that coaxes us to self-deprecate. Okay, so letter from a self-deprecator. Dear incredibly patient person, thank you. I know I fall with cloudburst force, and I'm sorry the dam in my rib cage has cracks. I know I'm a lot and never passed the safety inspections because I overreact. Some days I'm a confused chickadee. I can't sing blissful songs and I peck my own reflection. And I'm sorry for that too, though I ruffle my feathers to seem larger than I always act, because I'm so small and I gradually accept what I see as a foggy mirage wiped away, a summer shower that leaves ditches dredged. Yet I imprint a softness behind, as sadness is a quickened deluge that fades against a patched roof that thankfully looks normal, that doesn't drip, and is low maintenance, I swear. So keep the buckets in the basement, because I'm fine. Sincerely, the ceiling isn't leaking. And that's it for that one. Thank you. So the next one I actually wrote quite some time ago. and it was one of my first poems that I ever got published too. So it holds a special place in my heart. It's titled Moonset 2007. And the reason why I wrote this is because when I was like a teenager, I was like in high school at that time. And I had this very strange obsession with going outdoors in the middle of the night when the moon was about to set, because I realized at that time that I had never seen the moon set. And it was strange just experiencing what the world was like at that point of the night. So Moonset, June 2007. He soaks in an insomnia brine, still awake at 2:49. Glow in the dark ceiling stars fade as they lose charge from yesterday's light. His eyes are telescopes pointed at the sky as the summer's cedar sweet fills shallow lungs. Curiosity overflows as a waning gibbous rests against the tops of tamarack trees southwestward. Mr. Cartographer makes maps in his mind of all the lonely things he sees, the moon being swallowed by the horizon, the jagged tree standing proud on the hill, Saturn soaring through the constellation Leo, the old cat sitting on the roof. As a thunderstorm drums in the distance, lightning winks in the west, as moth wings whisper against window screens like card dealers shuffling their decks. So.
I love that one. That's great. Yay.
Thank you. I went haywire with the sounds in that one, and sometimes I get tongue-tied reading it. Thankfully, tonight I did not, so.
It was very visual too, though, which I liked.
Yeah, super visual.
Thank you. So the next one that I'm going to read is actually the conclusive poem to the first section of my book. And another aspect of my book that I really wanted to infuse within it is my obsession with geology. So like this book and it's in outlining this healing process is kind of like an archaeological dig of sorts. So
that's
my
cool.
goal,
I love that idea. That's
yeah,
awesome.
my goal was to get everybody to think of this like, okay, like I am going through this healing process. So think of me as digging in this archaeological site that is myself. So the last poem in this first section is titled Convection. I sink into worn upholstery after today's fall, with each effect on tomorrow measured in calculated stints of self-deprecation and inner pressure valve. Walls of trees blur past as I travel the pavement river toward a home I know is ahead, somewhere, while a plume rises in my chest like an unyielding spelunker scaling my rib cage. I won't let him out, because all it takes is something someone said 3 years ago to stir the inner Vesuvius, but it's forced dormant because that's what's expected. Long commutes are unpaid therapy sessions, and sometimes those are the easiest to afford. That was before I had health insurance and could actually get therapy. So that was me being salty.
I like it. I like it. Awesome
if only you had worked in Mohorovicek discontinuity into that.
That would have been the cherry on top.
Yeah, I would have given you all my money because that's my favorite phrase, and I try to work it into a conversation as often as possible.
Well, now
geologists know what I'm talking about.
That is actually secretly my goal for my next collection, which also is going to have some geology stuff in it too. So.
Okay, since you brought that up, let's take a break here. What are you writing now? And talk a little bit about that. And when do you expect it to come out? Okay, so my second collection is titled Feats of Alchemy, and it's coming out in October via Alien Buddha Press, who is also the publisher for my first collection. And my goal with my second collection is to do the exact opposite of my first. My first is all naturey and tree huggish. The second one is going to be more gritty, grungy, and industrial. Think of the second collection as being a misunderstood teenager in high school wearing alternative clothing and eyeliner.
That is what I have
Wow.
so far.
There's an
How-
image for you.
However, it's still largely going to be about the LGBTQ plus experience in the sense that when it comes to thinking of alchemy, there's alchemy happening around us in the world. People are always taking one thing and turning it into something else, whether it be a positive result or a negative result, you know? And I feel like for a lot of LGBTQ plus people, we kind of undergo that experience ourselves where we are exposed to so many different things and we don't know if who will be, you know, able to function in various situations or able to navigate a lot of the heteronormative things that dictate everyday life, you know? So that's largely what Feats of Alchemy is going to be about. But it's going to be like very sci-fi influenced too.
Okay, so when did Carbon Footprint come out?
Carbon Footprint came out in September 2020.
Okay, so you've taken about a year to work on this next collection. Are some of these pieces older than that year? How far back did it go? And then the second part to that question is, if things did go back further, how did you make the decision about what to include and what not to include?
So to answer your first question, yes. Most of the poems were written in this past year, and some of them are still being written because I'm not finished with it yet. But I do have several older poems that are in it. There are some poems that didn't make it into Carbon Footprint that are actually in this collection because they either have thematic components that connect with this theme of alchemy that I have that really didn't fit into Carbon Footprint. The way I made the decision to answer that second question was, of course, based on theme, but I also looked at it as, is this really old poem a lost cause, or is it salvageable, and can I turn it into something of the quality level that would be needed to go into an actual publication, if that makes sense. So, and several of them I found after making adjustments, they kind of blossomed in a way and improved drastically.
So your process when you write is a work and a rework and a rework until you massage it into the right place. Have you ever had a piece that you wrote a first draft and said, wow, didn't expect that?
Yes, actually a couple of the poems that I'm going to read tonight are some of those poems. The title poem in my book, Carbon Footprint, I knocked out in one sitting, and I went back to, because I'm always like, there's something wrong here. I need to find something wrong, you know? And I read it and I was like, okay, like, wow, like, I guess this sounds okay. So
have you
so
ever found yourself after a writing session going back and looking at it and trying to figure out where the words came from? Like you're not real sure it was you who wrote them?
Sometimes. I largely think of it though as just kind of it mirroring like past experiences and kind of like it amalgamating into something new. I not to be punny here, but I really feel like poetry is very much an alchemy itself because we're taking bits and pieces of our experiences or maybe what we see going on in the world and we create some sort of commentary on the human experience. So
I think there's an element of alchemy to all of our writing, whether we write poetry or fiction or nonfiction, essay, memoir. I think there is that idea of literary kitchen sink chemistry, where you're just like grabbing a bunch of things and throwing it together and seeing what works and what explodes in your face.
Well, and a lot of the time it's looking at old work too and seeing where that old work fits. Like I'm always like, I love journaling a lot. So a lot of the poems in Carbon Footprint came from looking through my old, really angsty journals and finding ideas and being like, oh, I could turn this into a poem. Like here is this really sad picture of a tree falling off a cliff I drew that was horrible. I could turn that into a poem, you know? Anything can become writing, which is beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, me too. It offers such a great opportunity for personal growth and then for sharing room as well. Can you read us a few more pieces, and then we'll see if Brent and Christopher have questions?
Yes, I would love to. Okay. So the next poem that I wrote is actually one of the first ones I wrote for the collection during its introductory process, and it's called Coffee Steam Signals. And essentially, I wrote this when I spent 10 years of my life being a barista before I went into teaching. And working in that capacity, you just get very observant of the people that interact with you. And there were always interesting people who would come into the coffee shop going through something. So I wanted to write this little poem about this man that I encountered. Coffee Steam Signals. I catch glimpses of him sitting in the corner, ocean basins in his eyes, bottom lip quake. I can tell he is a silent mourner. He squints, eyelid dams refuse to break. He sips his coffee, stares into its black, finds solace in its medicinal vapor, still holding his tears back. I want to let him cry on my shoulder, or maybe just hold him a while to let it out. But we're men, we're made of steel. Without these coffee steam distress signals, nobody would know that we feel. So,
nicely done. I like it.
Thank you. So the next one is the title poem of my book. It's of course titled Carbon Footprint. It was one of the last poems that I wrote for it, and I always get a chance to nerd out reading it, especially because it's Pride Month. I tried to incorporate a little bit of a nod to that as well. So, Carbon Footprint. The sun seems angry this summer as each day measures in asphalt cracks. The remaining grass patches beneath the backyard maples have gone arid, and their crisps are muffled under each footfall like the pops of bacon in a pan, while the pride flag, breached and frayed, whispers as it waves July goodbye on a humid wind. As I shift with shortening shadows, I pray with roadside chicory for respite and sing for rain with a passing oriole whose beak has grown leaden in this drought. Even the stationary tractor in the field creaks and hides behind heat ripples like a man-made mirage. Dear planet, let this summer pass. Let this industrial standstill reinvigorate your hope in us. Permit those storm heads to peak above the west long enough to swallow the sun, retract these swords of grass to their sheaths, and give us the baptismal downpour necessary to soak the brine from our veins, to erode the walls we build to keep you contained.
Nice. Well done.
Thank you.
Do you have a couple other pieces to read for us?
I do. I have at least
Okay.
one more other piece.
Perfect. But before you read that, I need to ask you this question.
Of course.
You said that Carbon Footprint was the last piece you wrote,
Yes.
but it became the title of your book. How did you make the decision which piece would be the title piece?
I actually thought of the title before I did the poem. I'm one of those strange writers. I think of the title first, whereas I know a lot of writers will write what they need to write and the title comes last. I knew that poem was kind of stirring in me, and to me it kind of encapsulates what the entire book kind of maps out, if that makes sense. So it wasn't a really difficult decision at all. Like, it just, the title came of the book, and then I was like, I should be like a musician and do a title poem of my book. And it worked out.
That's great. It's great that it worked out that way. I always seem to come up with titles in the first draft of what I write, and then work the story around the title. So that's pretty cool that you came to it kind of last that way. It's really neat.
So do I have enough time to read at least a couple of poems? They're not super long.
Yeah, you do, absolutely. But first I want to say this. Heather in the chat, she says, the tractor image in Carbon Footprint took me back to when I was a kid on my grandpa's farm. Good memory to visit. Thank you.
Oh, Oh, I adore you, Heather. Heather's a very good friend of mine.
Awesome. I love it when friends come out to support us. It's just such a cool thing. Makes us feel a little warm and fuzzy. Brent, you look like you have something on your mind, sir.
I do. I can't help but to wonder because, Donnie, like you, from one gay man to another, I also grew up in a tiny town surrounded by 3,000 acres of cornfield. And knowing that, in my teenage years, knew that half the people in town would be happy to attend my lynching. Do you think that if you'd grown up in a safer environment, would you have been as artistically inclined, or did you, like I did, find that as a way to survive in a situation that
not always easy?
Wanted?
Yeah.
That's a really good question. And it's difficult to answer. I think that writing did help me to survive, and I think that that's where it came from. It just became an escape. Before I went through, like when I was in middle school, because I didn't go through a lot of the difficult things I went through until high school or so, but even in middle school, I did enjoy writing a lot. So I think I would have still wrote, but I probably would have written, I don't think I would have written poetry. I probably would have written maybe nonfiction or fiction. I do dabble in those a little bit, but poetry became a way for me to talk about difficult things, but to kind of withdraw myself just enough to not be super obvious about what I'm writing about, if that makes sense, but still maintaining accessibility for everyone reading it.
So poetry was a less vulnerable avenue for you?
Yeah, like it allowed, I don't know if this makes sense at all. It allowed me inside to be more vulnerable, but when it comes to people reading it, like it didn't make me feel super exposed.
Kind of gentled the sting a little bit?
Exactly, yeah.
Actually, that was one of the comments I was going to make, was that if I did not see you, talk to you, hear you, and even see the book cover, reading that with the exception of the pride flag image, I would never have even known. I would not have even guessed. It is completely approachable to everyone. And that in itself is a real feat, which I think is fantastic. And the fact that when you were talking earlier and you said that you wanted to be able to have someone read these, but take their time reading it, you have so much visual and audio and sense, all the senses in there. You really have to take your time and go through it more than just once, because there's so much there. It's extraordinarily rich.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, if any of you have ever had Godiva chocolate, you know you can't sit down and eat 3 ounces in one sitting. You have to, like, you know.
Me.
I was gonna say, I'm fairly sure I've done that before.
The first
I like
time
to eat my feelings.
The first time I ever had Godiva chocolate, it was a standard like Hershey bar-sized chocolate, and it took me almost 3 months to get through it because it was so rich.
Yeah,
I know. It was my first exposure. What can I say?
It wouldn't even last a commercial break with me.
Okay, so all right, I'm the lightweight that I never knew I was. Okay, there you go.
We like our chocolate like we like our men.
I thought I did too. Evidently, I was wrong. Awesome. Okay, let's see if we can steer this ship back on the proper course. Donnie, you had a couple more pieces to read for us?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
This first one is a love poem. I promised my partner that I would read it at almost every reading that I do because he loves this poem, because I wrote it for him on our first Valentine's Day. So this poem is titled Snow Day. The Sauvignon sits on the coffee table, a gasoline that gets us through Pokemon battles. Entrails from last night's snowstorm slither away, leaving us battened inside a pleasant cabin fever. Slowly, sunlight refracts through wine, casts amber across the table and onto you. There you sit, one leg draped across mine, the other stretched across the table. We knot ourselves together until we lose where we're intertwined, yet as the couch swallows us whole, we laugh and sip our glasses of hard-earned wine. You smile at me as I doze off and call my name to keep me awake. The butterflies that infest my chest carry me beyond the exosphere, where even 1,000 suns pale in the wake of knowing you're still here. You're perfect, you say in a daze as you reach over it to rub my scruff. As the Sauvignon gets low, you pour more and teach me I am good enough.
That is beautiful. Thank you very much.
That poem almost did not make it into the book, but at the last moment, I was like, I have too many depressing poems at the end. I need a love poem. Here we go.
It's all about balance, right, Donny?
Yeah. Okay, so this last one is called My Closet as a Reliquary, and I dedicated it to a very dear friend of mine who was an LGBTQ plus actor and activist and musician. His name was Ace London. And he always would tell me when I was in college, he would be like, Donny, you are what you've been becoming. And it really kind of instilled in me the desire to want to become an activist as well. And that's where this poem came from. And it's also the last poem in my book. I don't think I mentioned that, but My Closet is a Reliquary. My closet door has fallen from its track and sits leaned against the dented drywall like a discarded portcullis, too weathered to keep me. Behind box-stacked skyscrapers, yellowed wallpaper peels and the crayon mural still robs floral print of its optic illusion, like a political graffiti with elementary verve. The shelves still dip under collections of unread religious texts, and the bloated plastic drawers refuse to budge from their cheap retail compartments as each paper-filled basin brims. The air is linen stale, and the glued constellations above still keep this room lit, while the tired July sun slips beneath the tree line, lengthening each shadow across the brown shag carpet. These years later, I keep the closet door off its track because it's powerless, a prison-made museum, a memorialized womb left open since I left for college after a second birth. Now my closet has lost its echo, and each stored memory maps a misshapen journey. So let these paper roadways return to nature, become overgrown because this cluttered closet is a reliquary, a room for storage, unable to keep me. And
amazing. Good job. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
You have an astounding way of using vocabulary. I love how you have the ability to not only use really specific words, but at the same time, you have a real clear understanding of how to create flow and music to your pieces. I'm really, really impressed with that. So congratulations. You did a really good job. That means a lot. It's really cool. So I've heard that you said that you teach. You mentioned it once tonight. I've seen on your Facebook. What exactly do you teach?
I teach composition, creative writing, and technical writing at a community college and at a university.
Wow. Okay, and you doubted your ability? Stop that.
I
don't do that anymore.
I think so many writers do, though, you know, like yeah, we all have like this imposter syndrome.
Yeah, always. Christopher, Brent, do you guys have any questions? Are there any questions in the chat that I may have missed, or comments in the chat I may have missed?
I haven't seen any. No.
I haven't seen either.
Awesome.
No.
Do you guys have any questions for Donny? I feel like I've been dominating things with my gushing.
Brent, we can talk.
I know. See?
I am by no means anywhere close to being a poetry expert, but I am impressed, and that's really all I've got. That's most people when they say I write poetry, I say, yeah, good for you. But this was terrific, and I'm really impressed, and I will be ordering your book tomorrow.
Thank you. That means a lot. My goal with the book was to make it accessible for everyone, even people who may not be comfortable or familiar with poetry. So I'm glad that I might have succeeded with that for some people.
Definitely.
You did.
Definitely.
And you said the second one is going to be coming out when?
In October. I don't know the specific day yet, but it's going to be in October.
Just in time for the October Virtual Book Festival.
Yeah, there we go. I was surprised actually you didn't read something from it.
I thought about it, but I didn't want to monopolize everything.
Didn't want to monopolize
all
yourself.
about you, Donny. That's kind of the point.
Basically, I know.
That's why we're doing this. It's all, I've taken my spotlight and shined it on you.
Well, not to do a shameless self-plug, but if anybody is interested in reading some of the poems from that collection, if you go to my website, donnywinter.com, you can see where a few of them have been published. And if you go to my poetry YouTube channel titled Donny Speaks, I do have some of those performed on there. So you're more than welcome to check that out.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I'm going to be looking forward to the next collection.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really super. And I'm so glad that you are making poetry accessible to those of us who don't speak poetry speak. I mean, so often when people consider poetry, they think of people like Elizabeth Barrett Browning and Shakespeare and, oh my God, really? But this is so super, I had a friend of mine in junior high who was madly in love with Edna St. Vincent Millay. He just thought she walked on water. And I used to read her stuff and just cock my head and go, I'm not so sure. So I'm really, really happy that you made this so accessible and so readable for us. I just think you did a great job.
You made my day.
Come back in October, I'll do it again. Okay. Any other questions from the chat or from my harbor crew, Christopher and Brent tonight? No? Okay, maybe we should give some stuff away. What do you think, Donny? Are you ready to do that?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. If anybody wants to connect to Donny and you'd like to check out his book, or you're interested in checking out any of the other authors that we're spotlighting and featuring during this festival, Brent has put the link for the Harbor catalog in the chat box there, so you can see it. You can also find it on pagespromotions.com, or you can go to our Facebook and link up there. I highly recommend that you reach out to these authors. They are spectacular human beings, and as you've heard tonight with Donny, really super talented people crawling upon the earth that I think you need to take tremendous time with and really enjoy. So thank you, Donny.
Yep. And the Harbor Store has links to all of our books and our contact information. And ordering from that is the same as if you just went to your corner store. It's all royalties go to the authors, and Pages Promotions isn't taking a cut out of any of it. So you can feel confident that you're supporting the author.
Absolutely. Yeah. Amy put in the chat, just so you know, Donny, she says, their poems make me think of the Beat Generation poems.
Thank you.
So there's a comparison for you.
Thank you. That is a compliment and a half.
Yeah, that's very cool. Small plug, by the way, Donny, I'm specifically telling you about this because I think you'll love it. Pick up Amy Kelso's book.
Yes, I've actually been meaning to, and I have not yet, but now I am definitely planning.
Because I think you guys write in a similar style, and certainly with accessible connectivity to the planet, and I think you would really enjoy her work. So Amy, I'm sorry, I'm gushing. There you go. I do this all the time. Crazy. One of my favorite things in the world is to tell everybody else how cool the authors are that I get to know. It's one of my favorites. Okay, so let's see if we can give some stuff away. What do you say? Tonight, let me first remind you again. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so there's Donny's book. This is an awesome book. I love this book. it's again, I highly recommend, even though it's a brief collection. It's got about 88 pages in it or so. I really recommend that everybody takes their time, really take the time to inhale it and to enjoy it. You'll thank yourself. It's really a great collection. So thank you, Donny, for writing it, and we look forward to your next one.
Thank you. Now
tonight, Donny has provided some really wonderful prizes for us to give away. Inside the treasure chest tonight, prize number 1 is a signed copy of Carbon Footprint with a book plate. Super cool. Prize number 2 is a signed copy of Carbon Footprint with a book plate. And if that's not all, Donny's created some really nifty Pride pens as well. They say Carbon Footprint on them. I don't know if you can see the little tiny thing, but it's very cool. And then in addition, like, you know, he wasn't being generous enough. He went the extra mile, and prize number 3 is a signed copy of Carbon Footprint with a book plate and a Pride pen and a copy of The Bitter Truth by Evanescence. This music inspired much of Donny's writing. So it'll be one more link in connectivity to Donny and where his brain goes when he writes for us. So that's super cool. You've really decked us out here with some really spectacular prizes. So
that was the goal.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I am going to share the Spinning Wheel of Happiness screen. Christopher, I need you to make sure that you can see this for me, pretty please.
Yes, we can see it.
Awesome. Okay. Okay, so we're going to spin the wheel 3 times. So this is spin number 1. Yay, April! You've won prize number 1, which is a signed copy of Carbon Footprint with a book plate. Congratulations! Okay, spinning wheel number 2. Hooray, Heather! You've won a book. Yay! I love giving away books. My favorite gift ever. I'm the aunt that gives all my nieces and nephews books, and they always, you know, cock their head and go, why? Okay, so prize number 2, Heather, you have won a signed copy of Carbon Footprint with a book plate and a Pride pen. Now we're going to do spinning wheel number 3. Here we go. Hooray, Kit! Congratulations! You are lucky winner number 3. You get a signed copy of Carbon Footprint with a book plate and a Pride pen and a copy of The Bitter Truth by Evanescence. So very, very cool. Thank you all for playing our wacky game and showing up tonight to support Donny. It's been super fun. Oh my gosh, so much fun. So now you're probably wondering, if you haven't been here before, how do you claim your prizes? Here's how you claim your prizes. Dun, dun, dun. There it is. Huzzah, you've won a book. So because your name landed, the Spinning Wheel of Happiness landed on your book, by midnight tonight, you need to send me an email with your mailing address in it. By midnight, this is my to-do list. And Donny won't know where to send your books unless you send me your mailing address. So make sure you do that so that when I get up in the morning, I can check it off my list and get the information to Donny right away. So if you don't claim a prize tonight, and my gosh, why would you not? Then your prize will go into the treasure chest and it will be given away at a later book event that Donny's doing with us on Poetry Night. So make sure that you check that out and get me that email right away tonight. Okay, Whoops, there we go. There's Charlie is excited about your poetry tonight, Donny. So congratulations. You've reached the dog. Okay. Christopher, can you tell us about our wacky life raft lottery, please?
But I can. Escape from the Isle of Mediocrity, in that every book that you receive in the mail that you have won, you need to look inside and look for a lottery ticket here, like the Life Raft Lottery. You scratch the sale and to find out if you are a winner or not a winner. If you are a winner, you need to take a picture of the ticket with you, send it to Diana, and you have the opportunity to win one of many, many bonus prizes that are extraordinary. What did I leave out?
Super extraordinary. We have such generous authors that provided amazing prizes. Some of these authors, like Jared Morningstar and Ian Tadashi Moore, are not even in the festival this month, and they donated prizes anyway. So we have the best community on the planet, seriously. Okay, here it is. If you win a scratch-off ticket, a Life Raft lottery ticket that says you're a winner, and you want to take it to the extra level and you want to win some super bonus prizes, this is what you do. You perform this poem, which Donnie's going to read for us because he volunteered. He has such a great reading voice. He's going to read this poem for us. You are going to perform this poem dramatically and in costume. And you're going to post a video of your performance to our Facebook page. Then the Facebook group will vote for their favorite video. And the favorite video will, on June 30th, we'll pull these prizes at our Venetian Night Rack Party, and you'll get one of these 3 super bonus prizes. Amazing stuff we're giving away. So Donnie, this is a wacky poem based on a campfire song I learned in Girl Scouts many, many, many years ago. And I just kind of changed some of the words. And so go for it.
My only regret is that I do not have a costume to perform this in. So
I think you'll do fine.
Okay. Out of my window, looking in the night, I can see the sailboat's flickering light. Starboard shines green and port is glowing red. I can see the sailboat straight ahead. Sailboats are their treasures in their holds, many trunks filled with silver and gold. Sailboats are their captains at your helm, bringing books for readers out of town.
Nicely done. And the fact that you didn't get a preview of that before you read it, good job. Excellent, excellent work. Thank you so much. So again, if you get a winning lottery ticket, post your video and then show up on June 30th to the Venetian Night Rack Party, and we're giving away prizes. Now, if that's not enough, on June 30th, we will give away a super ultimate performance prize. Andrew Smith has been super amazingly generous, and he has donated this prize for the one video that surpasses them all, which again, we're going to vote on. So embracing the thrill of fear grand prize package. This is amazing. So you're going to start with a copy of Slice of Fear by Andrew Allen Smith, which, by the way, I did a book review. Go look for it. It's really cool. Then you're going to take it to the next level as you find your way to Barnes & Noble to spend your $50 gift card on new books and pirate booty. But you aren't done. You have to eat. So you'll use your $25 American Express gift card for dinner, a cool bookmark, or a nifty eye patch. What better way to face your fear and move past it with books and your imagination? This is a prize pack of like, I don't know, it's worth like 85 bucks, which is amazing. So thank you again to Andrew. He's really, every time he steps up and he does something else, it's spectacular. So there you go. If you're on Venetian Night, come to the party. If your video is voted best on the ship, you'll win this super amazing ultimate performance prize. Okay. This is our Captain of the Fleet thing that we're doing for authors. This is a virtual Port Huron to Mackinac race. I created it after the actual sailing race that happens every year here in Michigan. Captains earn points by asking their friends, family, cohorts, co-workers to come to these events every night in June. For every person that tells us that the author sent them, and as you notice tonight, when you signed up on your registration form, there's a field that says who sent you. You can put in as many author names in that field as you like, and each one of them will get a point toward this race. It takes 3 points to move to the next harbor port stop. Every captain who finishes the race by June 30th will get a really super snazzy finisher's medal that you see right there. And then there are additional prizes for the captain who becomes captain of the fleet. Out of all the finishers, we're going to select one captain of the fleet on June 30th, our Venetian night party, and they will get all those other really snazzy, nifty prizes. So support your authors, support all the authors that you know, make sure you put their names, and authors, you can vote for yourself too. So make sure that you put all the names in there. I update the leaderboard every day before noon, so check it out. Our goal is 1,000 shore spectators this year for this festival. We have 133 right now. So our goal is 34 spectators each night. So as you can see, we need to get those numbers up a little bit to reach our goal. So authors, tell your friends, support your authors. Last but not least, Brent, will you please tell everybody about the Harbor Store catalog? You have to turn your microphone on first.
Thank you for that. Yes, the Harbor Store catalog is available at pagespromotions.com. It includes links to all participating authors' books, our contact information, websites, Facebook pages, whatever the various authors decided to put forward. You can order our books from there, and it's exactly the same as walking to your corner store and buying them. All royalties will go directly to the author. No one is taking a cut from that beyond the bookseller themselves, who always get their cut.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, it's usually a big one. So please support us all and check out the Harbor Store and look into, there might be some stuff in there that you've never heard of that you might be interested in. So take a look.
Absolutely. Thank you very much,
And
Brent.
I will post another link to that right now just to make it easy for you.
Perfect. Thank you very, very much. I'm really pleased that we did this tonight. Thank you, Donny. I'm so grateful for your talent and your gifts, and I'm really grateful that you're sharing them with the world. I think you need to continue doing it. Just keep at it. Don't give up.
Thank you. I really appreciate you facilitating this, Diana. And thank you, Chris and Brent, for joining this panel as well. It means a lot. And thank you for everybody for listening in and asking questions and commenting.
Absolutely. I think this is an hour well spent. Thank you so very much. Shots across the bow, Brent.
No, I have nothing else. I hope everybody else enjoyed this, because I certainly enjoyed it more than I have a lot of things. It's like I said, I usually not into poetry, but this was moving tonight, so I really enjoyed myself.
Well done, Donny. You gained another fan. Yay! Christopher, shots across the bow, sir.
I kind of had the same reaction to poetry before as Brent, where people have said, "What do you think of poetry?" I'm like, it's there. After hearing you tonight, Donny, though, I have a new favorite poet.
Oh,
See what happens.
Day made.
This is why I do these festivals, is so that, you know, Brent, Christopher, you guys hadn't heard of Donny before, and now you got to hear about him, learn about his work, and maybe you found a new favorite poet, like Christopher said. So, yay! I'm starting to check things off my done list. So, good job. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Patty says, Donny, your poems are picturesque. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you, Patty. I appreciate that.
See, the world loves you, Donny. Stop that doubting nonsense. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming back. If you know somebody who might have enjoyed tonight but was not able to attend, check out our Facebook page tomorrow. I will post the link tomorrow afternoon for the replay. And all the replays for our race legs are free. So you can watch them and share them and tell your friends about these amazing indie authors. Thanks again, Donny. This was a great night.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, everybody, and come back tomorrow. Tomorrow? Are we doing this tomorrow? What's tomorrow? Yes, tomorrow. Come back tomorrow. We're going to do it again with a bunch of more authors. Yeah, I'm tired.
Wow.
It's been a day. Too much Zoom today. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Have a good night.